All right, teammates. We are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the #1 podcast on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, you already know how we get down over here. We bring nothing but the best. We are here simply to serve you, whatever you may be going through, whatever difficult, challenging times you are may be suffering throughout. We're here. Created this show so you understand you're not going through it alone. You will not be going through it alone because we have, again, whether it's myself speaking on the solo episode or if it's somebody that's coming on, we are here. There's going to be something you can take away that's going to make it so your moment gets easier, your day gets easier, and eventually you'll start to figure out ways to get whatever it is you need out of life. So today I have Miss Nicole Harrington, founder of Nicole. I don't know whether to call it Nicole Harrington or Nicole Coaching, but before I get too into her bio, let me just kind of bring her on the show before I make the intro too long. So Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes. Now, the reason I am excited to talk to you is because you are someone that has dealt with a great deal of trauma. I've been very transparent about this show in the on this podcast about some of the things I've personally dealt with when it comes to trauma, like losing everything and having a car repossessed and like having absolutely nothing. And one of the things that you have shown, or like as I was listening to you before we started recording, is that you've dealt with a lot of difficult times. So I want to give you the microphone for a second to kind of to speak a little bit about your background and how you were able to come into the coaching and more specifically helping people with dealing with trauma and things of that nature. So go.
Yeah, thank you. So in my past, I experienced a difficult period, a traumatic event, and from that, I just had all the wrong resources and actions following. So I landed in a deep depression, and I kind of stayed in that because I didn't know who to trust or what to do. So now thankfully that I'm out of it, I choose to see depression as a positive thing. It's a warning sign, and it still shows up every single day. But if you catch it when it's small, then it won't turn into something bigger, is what I've learned from that.
So I'm not going to ask you to relive necessarily what the traumatic event was, or even if you don't want to say what it was, it's totally fine. But what I am curious about is some of the things that you may not have been aware of. That like for example, when I lost everything, I was trying to start my own team. I was trying to do something productive, and I didn't realize the financial burden that was going to be that caused me to lose everything. So there were certain things that I was unaware of. So when you're talking to clients now and you're helping them through this trauma, what are some of the things like the blind spots that you're referring to when it comes to some of these tragedies?
Do you mean what landed me in a deeper
Yeah,
depression, or?
exactly right.
Yeah, so for me, I was going out, I was drinking, I was smoking,
Did you grow up in
I,
Cali? Not to cut you, but
yes, I did.
you
Yeah,
grew up
I'm in
in Cali? Okay.
California.
Okay.
Hmm.
But then you grew up there and like, well, yeah, let's kind of go back there a little bit because we got started kind of fast. So when you how was like your upbringing and things like that? Was it something that led to the trauma or things like that? How was that going for you?
Yeah, thank you. I love your curiosity, so
Yeah,
it's great.
because we went a little too fast. And normally I give you an opportunity. It's just especially when we're talking to coaches and we're talking about trauma, I find myself getting a little too ahead of myself. But yeah, what was your upbringing like and all that kind of stuff. And I'll let you guys speak on that first.
Yeah, my upbringing really was fine. Like I grew up, I was a swimmer since age 5, competitively year round. I know that you're very into sports on this podcast.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, my sister swam too.
Yeah, very good. So I did swimming and water polo year round, and
No
I even
kidding.
did
Water
wrestling.
polo too.
Yeah,
Believe it or not, we've had a water polo lady, a girl who did water polo on this show. Very passionate about water
yeah.
polo.
That was fun to watch the Olympics, the water polo games. I don't know if you caught those, but
I caught
um
a little bit of it. Not.
yeah. Yeah, that was really fun to watch because it's been a while since I've seen a nice game like that. But yeah, so I continued playing water polo through college, and it was what really got me to meet people as
Hmm.
I became an adult. And it also turned out it was my first job. I was a swim coach through high school. So that's where, when I realized, like, what should I do? What should my job be? Like, coaching really, it was like, wait, coaching has always been the job that I love to do, the job, like my side hustle. So why not turn it into um, a more permanent position?
Hmm.
But
What school did you go to?
what school?
Yeah.
Oh, just I actually stayed local. It's a Sonoma County state school.
Right. Okay, so
Um,
you go there and then right after college you jump right into swimming and I mean not swimming, excuse me. You jump right into coaching and then what happens next when you try to make a career out of being a swim coach?
yeah, it wasn't so easy like that. After college is when I kind of found myself in a depression, and so it took me years just working local
Mhm.
customer service jobs where I was side hustle coaching as well, the
While yeah,
local
while working like
high school
I got you, I got you, I got you. Okay, and
customer
then
service jobs.
okay,
Yeah.
so you're going through this depression, you're dealing with a lot, and like you mentioned, this was something that expanded upon multiple years. What would you say eventually pulled you out? Can you kind of walk us through whether it was the day, whether it was the week, whether it was a certain amount of circumstances that pulled you out of it to ultimately now become a person that is, I mean, I was listening to you before we started recording, like you have a ton of material that is there to serve with. You have a ton of material that is here to kind of help people get through whatever it is they're going through, but you don't get there without having kind of a breakthrough or revelation on your own. Can you kind of walk us through when those moments were?
Yeah, thank you. So for me, what it looked like before I had that breakthrough, like, because if you talk to people from my past, they're probably like, "You're always so happy," and like we had no
Yeah, the
idea
mask. Yeah,
because,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And well, I
exactly.
kind of pause you there because
Yeah.
that's another important thing that I want to make sure the listeners catch is do not suffer in silence. Do not suffer in silence.
Yes.
I mean, unfortunately, what you just described is not very uncommon. It's very common when it comes to a lot of people who go through a lot of shit, and you would never know it because they're walking around with a smile on their face. They're acting like they're okay, and sometimes we don't catch it. A lot of people don't catch it, so it's important that you
Yeah.
do not suffer in silence. And I'm so grateful for you to point that out and be transparent enough to let people know. Look, I was not doing what it is I need to be doing. I was actually, you would think I was okay. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, thank
That
you,
happens a
Aswan.
lot, but yeah, that happens a lot on the show. By the way, I get excited. This is all impromptu stuff, so you know.
No, I love your curiosity, so
Yes.
it's great.
Yeah.
I have a very curious heart also.
Yes.
So, um yeah, no, but it was, if someone was confrontational towards me, like, my heart rate is racing. Like I didn't know what to do, or um I I became more of a listener. I like to look back and say I was a very good listener, and that's a good skill to have. So I think when we look back on past events or even what we're going through, what is it how are we describing what we're going through? How do we look back in our past, and how do we think of those events?
Hmm.
Um, because if we can put a positive narrative, even if it was the hardest time of our life, like it's going to help us in the future and in the present moment. So, um, but to get back a little bit to my story is yeah, I was hanging out with the wrong people. I had a very bad routine. So that's one big thing that we can have the best intentions. Like I wanted to quit smoking. I wanted to quit hanging out with going out at night, staying up late or whatever, not getting the right amount of sleep. I had good intentions, but it's sometimes our routine. We're surrounded by people who are doing that and it seems okay.
Hmm.
So it the routine is big. Like, I knew exactly how to, I already knew what alcohol I was going to buy. I knew where it was. I knew it would take me 5 minutes to go in and out of the store.
Hmm.
Um, I knew how to smuggle it into my room. So it was a bad routine I found myself in, and it's very hard to get out of something like that, especially on your own.
What was it that ultimately pulled you out of that routine? Your point is incredibly valid when you're talking about routine, because even the college version of me, I used to drink a lot. I played football, but I would joke all the time. Me and the guy at the liquor store, we're on a first name basis and shit like that. So you know,
Yeah, right.
I finished last year. I finished my a whole year sober. And I very rarely drink now. If I do drink, it may be a beer here and there. And what pulled me out of it was really just realizing it's not worth it. Like the moment for me was, I mean, it was that I went to school in New York and I was just hammered drunk one night. And it's to the point where you're so used to the feeling of being drunk where you realize in your drunken stupor, this shit is not worth it. It means the same feeling every time. And it's not like it's going to make anything better. And that was enough for me to kind of wake up and say, there's no point. It's just kind of stupid and pointless to continue going down this road where you're harming your body and you're not really doing anything for yourself. So when would you say that, these revelations hit you and these thoughts started hitting you?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that part of your story too, because we have the best intentions. Like that's what
Yeah,
I mean
I
is
was a
like
college football player, a typical college football player. That's
yeah,
supposed to be what we do, but really,
we're surrounded.
it's not really worth it at all. And for anybody that's listening that is playing or is competing in anything productive, understand this shit isn't worth it. I've been there, I know that, and I've been incredibly drunk. And in those moments, it just really is pointless to know that you actually did that and you spent the money on the bottle when it really was not worth it. So,
Yeah. Okay, so if I was gonna say one thing,
mhm.
like, of course it's not so easy as just one thing. I
Yeah, and there's
But
no
that
time.
is how it starts.
So
I'm sorry, what was that?
there's no time limits on the show, so you take all the time you need.
Thank you. Um, but if I'm looking back, then, I quit my job. Like I was able to get out of that environment. I mean, sometimes when graduate college, you get out of that environment, but you still find yourself around the same
The same people,
people.
the
You,
same people.
yeah, you really have to make a choice
Hmm.
with yourself. So one thing that really helped me, and it seems really simple, but um, it's okay. I started by saying like it's not as simple as one thing, but it
Hmm.
also is because you start with one thing and then you compile. Like you add one little thing, one little thing, one little thing, one thing gets easier, and then you add another thing.
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
feel like my biggest thing that still helps me today is drinking bubble water.
Hmm.
Like if I'm feeling like having a drink, first I'll have a bubble water and it almost has the same feel as a beer because it's bubbly, right?
Hmm.
Or if I'm going out with people and they're drinking, like make sure I order a ginger beer. Like I love ginger beer. It doesn't have alcohol. But it's like a treat, and I'm still buying something, but like start with that first and then have something alcoholic to, like ease into it. Be
Right.
gentle on yourself because it is hard to kick a habit like that.
Yes. So first of all, it's not crazy at all. That is important because just the sparkling. You said sparkling water, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, just doing that is something that I think can help a lot of people because it's a small thing. but it's not easy when you're so used to doing it the opposite way, right? So even just doing a sparkling water is going to be something that can potentially lead you into the world that you're going into now, because now you got to the point where maybe it started with sparkling water, and then possibly, I don't know, maybe working out more frequently, and then you gave up the drugs, and then one thing led to a next, and eventually you landed on it's Nicole coaching, correct?
Yeah.
So walk us through how you were able to build your business, or I know it's not going to be one day, but the process that took you from getting sober, cleaning up your habits and all that, and then eventually you got to the point where you were confident enough to allow people, get people to trust you with their trauma and help them, get through certain things. On you were going to be the person that was going to help them get through certain things.
Yeah, well, for me, it started with investing in myself. So I hired my own coach.
Right.
Um, his name is Nick Santanastasso. He's amazing. He's an international speaker. Definitely look him up. He's has no legs in one arm. Like his story is incredible. So I've been working with him
Has he
already
has
for,
he has he spoken on like Tony Robbins stage?
yes, he was
Yes,
working.
I have seen.
Yes.
I went to a UPW and Unleash the Power,
Yeah.
and that's I know exactly. Yeah, I saw that. So you had him as a coach.
Yes, I still
Oh,
do.
nice.
Yes, he's amazing.
Yeah.
So he really helped me realize like who are we keeping surrounding us? Who's in our inner circle? Like what information are we feeding ourselves? He really
Okay,
helped
so
me
now you that's what
change
I'm saying. All right,
my,
so now you have to you have
yeah,
let's dive a little deeper into that. When
yeah.
when did you find him, and what were some of the initial feelings? Like, what made you decide to invest in him, and then what were some of the like initial things that made it so you knew that this was the right investment?
Yeah, good question. So I technically I started with a health coach institute. I started going through their coaching certification, and they
Mhm.
had Nick as a guest speaker.
I gotcha.
Yeah, that was actually in 2020.
Mhm.
So I first saw him speak, and you just have to feel aligned with someone you want to work with. So it was an investment,
Mhm.
thousands of dollars. So it's especially when you're spending all your money on the wrong things.
Booze.
Yeah, it's hard
Right.
to, you know, invest so much money. And it's supposed to be, right? If
Yeah,
you're not
if you're
pushing
gonna make the
yourself out
decision,
of
right?
Yes, if you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, then you're staying stuck or even potentially moving back, right? Like
Mhm.
keep pushing yourself. Um, so I chose to join, and
Now, was this was a one-on-one coaching thing, or was it a group thing?
it's a group. He coaches once a week.
Mm.
It's a Zoom call.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I've
What were
joined.
like say that's what I'm saying. What were some of the initial things? Because actually, that can be a challenging thing too. When you're that deep into it, it can be a challenging thing to actually be a part of a group, or be a one-on-one is a little more serious. So, what was it about this specific program that made you obviously made the results that work?
Yeah. So one thing that really helped me with his group was, and especially since I've been working with him for so long,
Mhm.
I came to him, I'm like, the whole world sucks. Like, I don't see any good people. Like, I was really,
Yeah, all over the place.
um, yeah, like I felt like nobody was good. Like,
Yeah.
and I said this to him, and he was like, well, what about me? Do you feel like what do you feel that way about me? And I was like,
Huh.
no. So he's like, just start with one person.
Wow.
And yeah, a big thing is it was a few years after that I actually heard someone in the same group say the same thing, and he
Hmm.
had the same response, and I was like, that's it. Like, most of us don't need to be taught, we need to be reminded.
Hmm.
And just keep reminding yourself. of the reason you're stopping drinking or why you're pushing yourself.
Right.
Why are you continuing to look fear in the face and say, whatever?
Right. Now, when did you develop the confidence to develop your own coaching program?
Yeah, thanks. So I joined Health Coach Institute, so I became certified, which helps even though you don't really need it.
Right.
Um,
Now, health coach,
so
is that more teaching people nutrition and things like that?
yeah, I have gotten I think like 4 certifications from them. It started with life coaching and health coaching, and
Hmm.
then I joined additional programs to become a transitional coach as well as a mastery coach.
Right.
Um, and yeah, they just kind of, lay out the blueprint and
Right.
make it really easy. Um, it's just these 2 women who have become really successful in the coaching business. Stacy
Is the
Morgenstern
logo
and
it's like a circle with red?
that's
That's
a good
cool. I think
I,
I've reached out to them because when you it's two ladies, right, that run the school.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I
Stacy
have
and
reached. I know.
Carrie.
Yeah, yeah. I think I used to. I got on a call with one of them. I believe I was thinking about doing that at one point. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think I still do get their emails.
Yeah, that's good. I love their program. They have like a whole online back office. You go through
Right.
the blueprint. Yeah.
Okay, so you get there, you got there the certification, and one of the things I do remember actually having that conversation with her is eventually you're gonna have to go out and get your own clients, I believe it is, or they'll get the certification. What was that transition like, that process like when you got these certifications, but still needing to go out and get clients and still needing to go out and get people that the same way that the other coach you found that other coach. How were you able to position yourself to get more clients like that coach and stuff like that?
Yeah, so for me, pairing that program and working with Nick, he very much cares about us.
Right.
So he gave me specific things, how to change my content. He also introduced us to more people, which I invested in, sales training
Yeah.
with, and I've invested in a lot of programs to
Hmm.
to be where I am today, to be so confident.
Right.
Um, just like Colin Jurgensen, have you seen his? He's definitely someone to follow on Instagram because um he shows a really good way of reaching people online, and he's who got me really to start posting every single day, which I've been doing that for a year.
Hmm.
Woo! Um,
And
I
very
think it's in a
transparent
few
post, by
weeks.
the way, too.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Very transparent post, by the way. I was on it before we started recording, so.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I try and just share my story and be vulnerable because how can you expect someone else to be when you're not?
Mhm.
So that's one thing I like about Nick is he has always encouraged us to be share even what you're dealing with right now. Not
So
everybody does that.
when it comes to the work you're doing now, the people that are coming into your world, like if it's somebody that's listening that may be interested in being a client, or you can kind of speak on some of the people that you served already, what is the what is the thing that you're able to help them get through specifically, and how are they, we'll start there. What is this thing that you're able to help them get through, and then we'll talk a little bit about how they're able to get in touch with you and stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So it's about um, looking at depression in a different way. So if you can change the way you see your depression and see it as a tool and a warning sign, then it's going to change your life. And um, that's where we start.
Mm-hmm.
So um,
Now,
for
on the note of depression, though, how
yeah,
are you diagnosing it? In a way,
yes.
it's such a slippery slope because, like you had mentioned, sometimes you could be depressed and you would never know. You could be some of the happiest people in the world. When it comes to depression, what is diagnosis, the process when it comes to diagnosing something like that?
Yeah, thanks for asking that because I do not diagnose.
Yeah.
I'm not, a
But
doctor.
you've been around enough to know when you can sense something is there. Like,
Yeah.
I teach and I'm around kids. There's some that have special needs. There's some that are going through certain things at home. They're acting out. They're pretending this. There's certain things that we'll see in a young kid or even the parent to say, all right, something ain't right at home. Something ain't feeling right. They're even domestic women who've been in domestic abuse situations, maybe they'll wear, hey, how's it called? Maybe they'll wear glasses, they'll do something that hides it. So what are some of the things that you may like in terms of your experience with depression? What is something that you can possibly share?
Yes, I love this. Thank you. So for me, it's the language that we're using.
Hmm.
So um, even little words like especially visuals,
Hmm.
if you catch a kid or even adults,
Yeah. Sometimes adults like that very much like that they need it just as much, right?
yes, like visuals, um dive right in, like I'm gonna just dive right in, that's the visuals that I'm
Yeah.
speaking of. So if you can just ask someone like, what do you picture when you say that, like, get just to get to know someone, just like
Yeah.
we're talking about being curious, like that's
Yeah.
the same thing as people in your life, just be curious and try and um um it's also hard because you don't want to like help people who don't want your help, like that will get you in trouble too. So it's more of, being there for people. If you're talking about, you do notice someone in your life is using, oh my gosh, one of my least favorite visuals is like stab me in the back, or like
Hmm.
just those ones always make me cringe. But it's about the words you're using.
Hmm.
So, how are you describing something?
Hmm.
Um, I kind of touched on that earlier about the narrative piece. Is how are you explaining something? Is it in a positive light or a negative light?
Hmm. Also, too, what I've learned is body language. Body language is
Mm,
a huge, huge indicator when someone's actually going through something. And I've been in fitness. This is kind of I have a long, extensive history in industry. It's been fitness, athletics, and education. And a lot of those industries are very transient industries that have a lot to do with families, raising families. And there's some women that I've met that were going through a divorce and you can tell their body language wasn't there and they're not as active and things like that. So if there's anybody that is listening in that may need a life coach or maybe going through some trauma and things like that, what's the best ways that they can get in touch with you if they want to hear more about your services and stuff like that?
yeah, I wanted to make it easy. So, Nicole Coaching G, I'm on all platforms. It's one word with two G's.
Hmm.
Instagram, you can message me. I have a Facebook page
Hmm.
and an email. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think if you're thinking about investing in a coach, then you want to just start following them and see if their content relates and reach out, say hi. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be a difficult, like an uncomfortable
Right.
thing if you're looking at investing in someone
Well,
into a program.
that's actually important too, is making sure that you're following the person for a specific period of time because you will be making an investment. And as you said, if you're going to be the coach that's not out there putting their story out there as transparently and as authentically as they can, you can't expect your clients to do the same thing. So that's part of the process. Step one of the process is make sure you go follow the person and see if they're really an authentic person and if they're worth the investment over a period of time. So I'm glad you shared that as well.
Yeah, thank you. And just to point out, like, if you are that person, like you mentioned, someone going through a divorce,
Mhm.
I have a little tidbit on that. It's like when I'm walking around, even if I'm not feeling 100% on top of the world, um, I think of my body as like a less than or a greater than sign. So like if I'm less
Well,
than like
if
here,
you're listening to this on audio, just go. She's putting the alligator. We teach it like the alligator.
yeah.
It's the way we teach it. So it was
Yeah.
cool that you did that.
Like are you more your body can be a little bit more slouched than your greater, it's a little bit smaller, or
Uh-huh.
if you just kind of can from your core kind of expand can actually help you just feel stronger in the moment. So even if you're not there right now,
Mm-hmm.
just present yourself and you will get there. If that makes
All right,
sense.
big man.
You're right, we're on audio, but
All right, cool. Well, first of all, I definitely appreciate your transparency. Appreciate you coming on. And Nicole, the way I close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are, I believe you said what, high school, no, college version of you. You're going through it. You're depressed. You're just in a very, very difficult state. You don't know how you're going to get out. I want you to pretend that that version of Nicole has come into the Zoom room. Give her some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
yes, old Nicole, I like to call her, I wish she'd known that even just visualizing doing something I want to be doing, but I can't right now,
Mhm.
actually tricks our brain, and our brain doesn't know the difference. So, as long as we're framing it in a positive light and we're picturing ourselves going for a walk or we're picturing ourselves going out and not drinking, it still counts.
Mm.
I wish I'd know understood that.
I have absolutely nothing to add. I think that's incredible. I think that's important. And again, for if you're a first time listener, just know that the reason I close out the show with that question is because if you yourself are going through something like that, she's talking directly to you, and you regular listeners know that this is how I close out the shows for that reason. So, all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.